For decades, the field of sociology has operated under a persistent assumption known as digital dualism. This is the belief that the physical world is primary, while the digital world exists as a secondary simulation, and elsewhere that we log into and out of. That boundary has collapsed. Biological existence and digital data streams have begun to actively co-construct a single, unified reality. Augmented reality describes the default ontological state of modern life. It is the permanent enmeshing of atoms and bits, where the physical body and the digital profile are locked in a constant mutual dialogue. Because our reality is now fully augmented, trying to analyze human cognition or design technology through a dualistic lens creates systemic errors. It results in systems that treat human beings as if they can be neatly partitioned into hardware and software, which skews how we approach learning and identity. You can see this error in traditional institutional education. The modern classroom relies on a storage and retrieval model that was designed to train an offline industrial-era labor force. During the Industrial Revolution, schools mirrored factories. They prioritized discipline, obedience, and the strict standardization of knowledge over cognitive resonance or individual curiosity. The philosopher Paulo Freire termed this the banking model of education. It treats students as empty, passive receptacles, waiting for an instructor to deposit isolated packets of information into their heads. Contemporary psychological studies show that this mechanistic model actively impairs emotional development. When learning is reduced to compliance and rote storage, intrinsic curiosity drops off sharply. This psychological suppression triggered deep cultural pushback in the late 20th century. Movements began protesting against institutional mechanisms that value standardized productivity over personhood. Moving past this failing mechanistic approach forces us to rethink how humans acquire knowledge. We must examine two radically divergent models for accessing infinite memory: technological integration with the cloud and metaphysical cognitive resonance. The technological path is championed by futurists like Ray Kurzweil. His model of cognitive augmentation posits that human intelligence will merge directly with cloud infrastructure through brain-machine interfaces. This is the equation for integration. Total intelligence equals biological capacity plus cumulative intelligence accessed from the cloud. Notice biological intelligence remains static. All growth comes from the second half, where knowledge acquisition scales exponentially by continuously integrating external data. Relying on external servers for cognitive expansion carries a massive structural risk. It creates what scholars call a digital Shadow Akasha, an outsourced memory bank governed by corporate algorithms and surveillance economics rather than the user. When you rapidly and continuously integrate unmediated external data, the internal structures of the brain begin to deteriorate. Here is the memory decay function. Baseline retention drops in proportion to cumulative cognitive offloading. The more the cloud stores, the less the brain retains. This erosion extends to the self. The identity fragmentation coefficient shows that as digital immersion increases, coherence drops exponentially. The Kurzweilian model successfully achieves infinite data access, but without internal mediation, relying entirely on external cloud storage results in measurable identity fragmentation and the decay of biological memory. The opposing paradigm approaches infinite memory entirely from the inside out. This is the concept of the Akashic Records, originating in Vedic metaphysics as a subtle, vibrational field retaining the memory of all events and thoughts. In this framework, knowledge is not a collection of data points, but an all-pervasive cosmic intelligence. It posits that the universe itself is a vibrational substrate where every intention is immutably stored. This metaphysical concept was ultimately bridged into 20th century psychology by Carl Jung. His research into the collective unconscious similarly proposed that humanity shares a repository of archetypal wisdom that transcends the personal psyche. Akashic retrieval bypasses syllogistic deduction or external stimuli. Because the field is a vibrational substrate, accessing it requires deep meditative absorption to reach resonance. Through this process, the mind effectively tunes itself to the specific frequencies that contain the sought-after insight. This step function graph models knowledge acquisition. Unlike the cloud's continuous exponential curve, this knowledge spikes abruptly only when a specific threshold is reached. Access is a non-linear threshold function, depending on the resonance coefficient multiplied by the depth of internal focus over time. The Akashic field protects the identity of the user because it demands rigorous internal attunement and ethical grounding. However, it lacks the empirical precision and instantaneous scalability offered by digital networks. To move forward, we require a synthesis of both domains. We call this architecture conscious techne, a framework that merges the internal alignment of Akashic resonance with the external augmentation of the cloud. In this model, intuition directs inquiry, and technology scaffolds interpretation. It creates a feedback loop where biological insight and digital data actively support one another. This hybrid equation for cognitive integration functions as a dynamic system. True knowledge balances the weight of Akashic alignment against cloud augmentation. By adjusting these tuning coefficients, we prevent digital data overload and ungrounded cognitive drift. Technology cannot be the master system that we upload our minds into. It must be an external scaffold, meticulously tuned to our internal biological and spiritual state. Applying the conscious techne framework to our educational systems results in the integral university, a model designed to replace the industrial banking system. This requires a soul-centric approach to education. The focus shifts from rote memorization to self-realization, pulling from historical precedents that championed autonomous, learner-led curiosity. The curriculum is designed to nurture the body, soul, and spirit in harmony with the student's natural developmental stages. In this model, the educator facilitates meaning by using AI to curate resources. The future of human cognition relies on how we integrate our tools. If we use infinite cloud data to replace human identity, we face psychological fragmentation. But if we use it as a finely tuned mirror, we can amplify the inner wisdom of the integrated self.